So let's pick this back up. We've been off a couple weeks. We've got some new information. Let's see. In the last episode, we talked about adulterations of bread and how it kind of relates to chemical leavening. That the adulterants they were using were meant to do a couple of different things, and one of the things they did either by accident or on purpose was help leaven the bread. And that's 1757 or so that big kerfuffle happens.
We also have some references to the professional use of chemical leavening right around the mid-18th century.
Right.
In England.
Professional use.
Professional use.
Right.
Now, the references that we found too, primarily secondary, we've been tracing those. Take the professional use of chemical leavening in the Netherlands,
right.
Germany, Russia, much farther back.
Right.
We're talking the 14th century in Netherlands.
The gingerbread bakers, the honey cake bakers.
Right, right. So at the same time, we have this early use among the professionals. At the same time, we have this conventional wisdom that says, chemical leavening really is an American invention, early 19th century, and somewhere in between is this bridge.
Right, where we go from professional bakers to it becoming standard household knowledge that people would do. Yeah.
The trade secrets.
Right. Versus public use.
Right.
If we go forward in time to regular conventional wisdom, we have 1830s. Americans are using chemical leavening, baking powder, baking soda. That's 1830 easily in American cookbooks. We push it back a little bit and we get to 1808. In time, we have it in English cookbooks. So we're going backwards in time. 1808, we have it in English cookbooks. Okay.
Duncan MacDonald.
Was,
and there was also another, some encyclopedia. I think that's actually the earliest reference that I found. There was an encyclopedia that picked up a very interesting recipe called the American Potash cake.
And that's copied from?
That's copied from a letter to the editor written from Margaretta Curley in 1799.
Okay.
Now, Margaretta Curley was from Long Island, Cedar Grove, Long Island. And she included a recipe, and she was kind of expounding on the benefits of using potash as a leavening agent. Talking about how it's great when yeast isn't available, if you have uninvited guests or unexpected guests, very quick to do, and
so this is a letter to the editor, right?
A letter to the editor, yeah.
So it's an American, and she's writing to a London magazine or a London newspaper.
Correct. And she's encouraging the editors to share the recipe with their readers so that they too can benefit from the use of potash or pearl ash in their bread making.
Right. So this 1808 recipe is basically him copying this very thing. He's doing what she says to do. She's saying, hey, you guys need to benefit from this great new way of cooking, this new idea of chemical leavening. You guys need to try this. You need to spread this. It's of great use. So she's trying to help people out in England.
We see this early 19th century inclusion into English cooking. It doesn't take off as quickly there as it does in America. And who knows, it may be because of all of the previous...
adulteration scares. People saying they're adding these bad things to the bread and they're poisoning people. So that they may have had the idea that these using chemical leavening was poisoning their food.
Yeah, and that's speculation, but that may
be one of the resistances.
Right. We mentioned Margaretta Curley, the lady who wrote the letter to the editor with this recipe. That was written in 1799. And again, she's from Long Island. Okay.
Is that a response to yet another?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's actually a response to an earlier inquiry in a magazine. Someone had read an article written by Samuel Mitchell. He's a physician.
Okay.
And Mitchell mentions the use of potash in cakes.
Okay.
And that earlier writer is saying, does someone have the recipe? Okay. Mitchell, now I've done a little bit of research into Samuel Mitchell. Now, he was a prolific writer in these magazines, okay? And the earliest reference that I can find by Mitchell to potash cakes is 1789.
Okay.
Now,
so they were pushing it back yet another decade.
Right.
It's 10 years earlier.
And sandwiched in between these two references, Mitchell of 1789 and Curley of 1799, we have Amelia Simmons, the first cookbook written by an American.
Right.
1796. And she has 5 or 6 recipes in her cookbook that use potash as a leavening agent.
Is it potash or pearl ash?
Pearl ash.
She uses pearl ash.
Right.
Which is a component, a refining of potash.
Right. The interesting thing is Mitchell, Curley, Simmons, they're all from New York.
So even the doctor was writing from that area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And the Hudson Valley area.
Right.
Which was in the early 17th century was New Netherlands.
Okay.
While the English were settling in Jamestown,
right,
the Dutch were settling
right there in the New York area.
And all up the Hudson Valley, the Hudson River Valley.
Okay.
So again, we see this heavy Dutch influence. Amelia Simmons, a lot of the words that she uses, cake, or the Dutch word was koek, which really doesn't translate as well into when we hear the word cake, I think of light and fluffy birthday cake. Really sweet bread.
Like a shortbread.
Right. So we have these 3 references that are all coming from the Hudson Valley area, all Dutch
so we have 1799,
influence.
1796, 1789. So we're into the 18th century.
Right. So we're getting closer. We have this domestic use as early as 1790 or 1789.
Right.
We have the professional use from
in England in mid 18th century.
Mid 18th century. Anyway, we're kind of converging on time, and we're
looking for this touch point.
Yeah. Where this arc occurs, this bridge between professional use and domestic use. Right. And I'm not sure we're going to be able to pinpoint a specific date, a specific point in time. But I feel like we're getting close.
So how about if we stop here today? In our next episode, we hope to get a lot closer to this touch point, this missing link between professional and domestic use of chemical leavening. Thank you so much for watching today. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. You can also check this link out. It'll take you directly to our website, and you can request a print catalog. Thanks so much for watching.